Hello, welcome to Talking the Secret Doctrine. My name is Dr. Don Franklin Shepherd, and today we will be continuing our study of the first stanza in Volume 1 of the Secret Doctrine. Once again, we are using the verbatim edition published by Theosophical University Press, located out in Pasadena, California. So let us continue with our examination of stanza 1 to understand the immaculate white disk, the dull black ground, and the central point in relation to this great age of 311 trillion 40 billion years. So we can go ahead and take a look at Sloka 5, and let's read it verbatim. Darkness alone filled the boundless all, for Father, Mother, and Son were once more one, and the Son had not awakened yet for the new wheel and his pilgrimage thereon. Now this new wheel is the great age. It's often referred to as a Mahamanvantara. This is the 311 trillion year cycle that H.P. Blavatsky spoke about earlier. So we have Father, Mother, which represents the vibrating central point, but it's vibrating in the Mahapralaya. It's not vibrating in the Mahamanvantara. And from this mother-father comes the central point. And when the central point emerges, we have the dawn of differentiation, and we have the beginning of this 311 trillion year great age cycle. So let us continue. H.P. Blavatsky writes, darkness is father, mother, light is their son, says an old Eastern proverb. So darkness is father, mother. It's this Mula Prakriti with the vibrating central point within it. Light is their son because light shoots out from the horizontal line across the immaculate white disk, and we see it break through the dull black ground in our inner vision. She continues, light is inconceivable except as coming from some source, which is the cause of it. The source in this case is the immaculate white disk. And as, in the instance of primordial light, that source is unknown, though is strongly demanded by reason and logic, therefore it is called darkness by us from an intellectual point of view. The darkness is the underbelly, the Mula Prakriti, which we can see when sitting in our chair, and we transfer our consciousness to a higher state. She continues, as to a borrowed or secondary light, whatever its source, it can be but of a temporary myopic character. The borrowed or secondary light in this case is the central point, the third logos. Its light is borrowed from the first logos. It breaks through the dull black ground, but ultimately it's myopic because it only carries the aroma of the divine thought of the immaculate white disk rather than the entire substance. We see this if we take a look at H.P. Blavatsky's Voice of the Silence. There's a wonderful little example where she talks about the central point breaking through the dull black ground in a way and ultimately entering myopic existence. Once again, this is a verbatim edition by Theosophical University Press. If we turn to page 4, we read in the second paragraph there, when waxing stronger, thy soul glides forth from her secure retreat, and breaking loose from the protecting shrine, extends her silver thread and rushes onward. When beholding her image on the waves of space, she whispers, this is I. Declare, O disciple, that thy soul is caught in the webs of delusion. Of course, this example can equally correspond to the 7th layer, the 6th layer, and the 5th layer of the mundane egg, where the 5th layer is the soul, the 6th layer is the oversoul, and the 7th layer is Param Atman. It is important to remember that the first, second, and third logos reflect themselves into the highest 3 layers of the mundane egg. The first logos of the immaculate white disk, the second logos of the dull black ground, the third logos of the central point reflect themselves into the seventh layer of Paramatman in the mundane egg, the sixth layer of Adi Buddhi in the mundane egg, and the fifth layer of Mahat in the mundane egg. And that is why, when we re-look at Voice of the Silence, and we turn to page 1, H.P. Blavatsky says such things as, "The mind is the great slayer of the real. That is because the mind, the soul, Mahat, the fifth layer of the mundane egg, slays what is real, and what is real is the sixth and the seventh layers of the mundane egg." So let us continue. Darkness, then, is the eternal matrix in which the sources of light appear and disappear. So the sources of light are the pilgrim monad. It's the third logos breaking out and returning, breaking out and returning. Nothing is added to darkness to make of it light, or to light to make it darkness on this our plane. We are going to see the central point as light in our inner vision. It doesn't change into darkness. We're going to see the darkness as darkness in our inner vision. It doesn't change into light. This is how we see it on our plane of consciousness. She continues, "They are interchangeable, and scientifically light is but a mode of darkness and vice versa, yet both are phenomena of the same noumena, which is absolute darkness to the scientific mind, and but a great twilight to the perception of the Avric mystic, though to that of the spiritual eye of the initiate, it is absolute light." Here, H.P. Blavatsky has transferred the conversation to our physical plane. So we see the physical matter around us. But when we use our astral vision to try to move to other planes, it's but a gray twilight. However, as we advance and as we learn and we go to these other planes are no longer merely seen as gray twilight, but in actual color. And the colors are immense, and the colors are beautiful. The colors in Devachan are overwhelming, the roses and the blues. So Blavatsky is laying out here in this particular passage that we see the physical world, and as these inner senses develop, we begin to see the inner world through a gray twilight, and ultimately we see them through colors. She continues, "How far we discern the light that issues in darkness depends upon our powers of vision." So forth and so on. Finally, the last sentence there. "When the whole universe was plunged in sleep, had returned to its one primordial element, there was neither center of luminosity nor eye to perceive light, and darkness necessarily filled the boundless all." So this relates back to that 311 trillion year cycle. The central point is visible to beings underneath it. However, that central point goes back into the darkness. There's nothing to perceive it, and the only thing that's left is Mula Prakriti, the second logos. Let's go ahead and look at the next passage in the Secret Doctrine. Here's still part of this current sloka, and see what she has to say further. "The father-mother are the male and female principles in root nature, the opposite poles that manifest in all things on every plane of cosmos. In a less allegorical aspect, the resultant of which is the universe or the sun." So here we have an identification of the universe with the sun. We have father-mother as a horizontal line across the immaculate white disk. The potential point is vibrating. That point ultimately becomes active. That point explodes out and creates the universe as we understand it as a sevenfold mundane egg. She says they are once more one when in the night of Brahma, during Pralaya, here she's referring to the central point going back into Mula Prakriti, the third logos returning to the second logos. All in the objective universe has returned to its one primal and eternal cause to reappear at the following dawn as it does periodically. Again, this is at the close of the 311 trillion year period. The central points returned fully back into the darkness of space. She continues, Karana, eternal cause, was alone. Now this is important. Karana, when we're dealing with the mundane egg, is the sixth layer of the mundane egg. And we have to understand this in order to understand this process of the Great Age, the closing of it and the beginning of the Mahapralaya. The Immaculate White Disk shoots out the central point through the darkness of space. That central point lights up the great central sun of the seventh layer of the mundane egg. From there, we have an unrolling of the 6 layers below it. Now, the 6th layer is Karana, Adi Buddhi. And all of this unrolls from Adi Buddhi, what H.P. Blavatsky previously referred to as the universal oversoul. And then we get the soul, and then we get the Dhyani Buddhas, and we go down from there. When the Mahamanvantara is over, all of this starts to roll up again. And it rolls up to Karana, but something special happens with Karana. What Karana does is Karana protects the upper worlds from the lower worlds. And as the inner being of the universe is retreating back upwards through the cosmic planes, Karana enwraps the spirit consciousness of Paramatman, so the lower worlds cannot interfere with it. This is the reason why, with the Mahapralaya, the only thing that remains is the darkness of space, is because Karana is enwrapping the higher layers within itself, so they are cocooned and cannot be disturbed. This is why Karana is alone. She continues, to put it more plainly, Karana is alone during the nights of Brahma. So Karana is protecting Paramatman. It's protecting the central point. It's protecting the dull black ground. It's protecting the Immaculate White Disk. It's protecting these things during the 311 trillion year Mahapralaya. The previous objective universe has dissolved into its one primal and eternal cause, and so, to say, held in solution in space, to differentiate again and crystallize out anew at the following Manvantaric dawn, which is the commencement of a new day or new activity of Brahma, the symbol of the universe. So here we have Brahma being identified with the symbol of the universe. Now, we can look at Brahma in terms of a planet or a planetary chain, which in some way endures during 311 trillion years, the Great Age. We can look at this Brahma in terms of the solar sun and how the solar sun endures during this 311 trillion year Great Age. We also can look at this Brahma as the third logos and in how it tinctures the 7th layer of Paramatman to start this dawn of differentiation in a 311 trillion year Great Age. This is the universe. This is the mundane egg. She continues, in esoteric parlance, Brahma is father, mother, son, or spirit, soul, and body, at once, each personage being symbolical of an attribute, so forth and so on, a graduate efflux of divine breath. So I think in these passages, the reader is able to get a clear concept of how the unfolding process of the first logos, the second logos, the third logos, into the 7th layer of the mundane egg, which ultimately brings about the 6th layer, Karana, the 5th layer, the soul, how these continue to unfold over a 311 trillion year cycle, how they retreat back up through the stages of consciousness into Karana, how Karana, at the close of the Mahamanvantara, protects the upper layers from the lower layers, and the Mahapralaya begins. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that gives us some food for thought, and we'll see you next time.